There was a dog so ferocious, so perfectly engineered for combat, that it couldn't be kept with its own kind. Not just males with males or females with females, but even males with females, because they'd fight to the death instead of mate. Breeders had to sedate them just to produce a litter, and eventually the breed destroyed itself from the inside out. This is the Cordoba Fighting Dog, and it's gone forever, but the dog it gave birth to before it vanished is still a fearsome guardian today. Argentina in the late 1800s was a country building itself. It had land, cattle, and a frontier culture that valued toughness above almost everything else. It also had an appetite for blood sport. Dogfighting wasn't a fringe activity. It drew crowds, money, and serious breeders who treated the development of a fighting dog like an engineering problem to solve, unfortunately. The man most associated with creating the Cordoba Fighting Dog was Antonio Nores Martinez's grandfather's generation. Breeders operating out of Cordoba, Argentina's second city, deep in the agricultural heartland. Their goal was simple and brutal: produce the most effective fighting dog possible. To do that, they crossed some of the heaviest hitters in the canine world. The now extinct Old English Bulldog brought raw power and pain tolerance. The Bull Terrier added gameness, that relentless drive to keep going regardless of injury. The Boxer contributed athleticism and a broad, powerful head. The Mastiff brought size and bone. What came out the other side was a large, pure white dog, heavily muscled, with a strong jaw, deep chest, and an almost total absence of the instinct to back down. In the fighting pit, the Cordoba was exceptional. It hit hard, it held on, and critically, it didn't quit. Pain tolerance in these dogs was described by contemporary breeders as almost incomprehensible. They would continue fighting through injuries that would have stopped any other breed dead. The white coat wasn't incidental. It was selected deliberately. White dogs were easier to see in the pit. Judges and spectators needed to track the action. Form following function, even in the details. Here's where the story gets dark in a different way. Not violent, but tragic. The breeders succeeded. Completely. They built exactly what they set out to build. A dog of near total aggression toward other dogs, with an elevated prey drive and the physical tools to back it up. But selective breeding is a transaction. You pay for what you get, and the aspects you ignore will end up biting you back. The Cordoba Fighting Dog was so driven toward combat that it became almost impossible to manage. Same-sex pairs would fight to exhaustion or death if left together. But opposite-sex pairs were no safer. Males and females would attack each other rather than breed. In multiple recorded accounts, breeders describe having to physically restrain and in some cases chemically sedate dogs just to achieve mating. Think about what that means for a breeding program. Every generation was a battle to produce the next one. There was no easing off, no balance. The aggression dial had been turned past the point of utility and into self-destruction. Beyond other dogs, the Cordoba's prey drive towards smaller animals was also extreme. As a working dog, it was limited. As a companion animal, essentially impossible. Its entire existence was oriented around the pit. By the early 20th century, dogfighting was declining in Argentina, changing laws, changing culture, changing attitudes. And without the pit, the Cordoba Fighting Dog had no context to exist in. Breeders moved on or shifted focus. The population collapsed. But before it vanished entirely, it became the foundation of something remarkable. In the 1920s, Antonio Nores Martinez, a young Argentine doctor and passionate hunter, looked at the Cordoba and saw not a relic of blood sport, but raw material. He wanted a big game hunting dog for the Argentine wilderness. Something that could track a puma, hold it at bay, and take punishment while doing it. Something with courage that bordered on recklessness, starting to sound like a potentially great catchdog breed. He used the Cordoba as his base stock and spent decades crossing it with breeds selected to balance out the aggression while keeping the power and tenacity. The Great Dane added size and nobility. The Irish Wolfhound contributed speed and a softer temperament. Pointer blood brought scenting ability and trainability. The Dogue de Bordeaux reinforced the jaw and the bone. The Pyrenean Mastiff added the white coat and cold weather resilience. A true mix of breeds which could have gone terribly wrong. What emerged, however, after years of careful, documented work, was the Dogo Argentino. Loyal, powerful, trainable, still fearless, but no longer ungovernable. The Cordoba didn't survive, but its DNA runs through one of Argentina's most iconic breeds. The ferocity was refined into something that could actually live alongside humans. Now, if you want to go deeper on stories like this one, I wrote an ebook covering 10 extinct Mastiff-type breeds, and the Cordoba Fighting Dog is in there. Over 25 pages covering the history, the bloodlines, the reasons these dogs disappeared, and the traces they left behind in modern breeds. It's $3.99. Link is in the description. Worth it if this kind of thing is your rabbit hole. The Cordoba Fighting Dog is a case study in what happens when you breed without a ceiling. The breeders got exactly what they wanted. And that's precisely what ended it. A dog too aggressive to reproduce, too dangerous to keep, too single-purpose to survive the end of its purpose. It's gone. But in every Dogo Argentino standing in a field or a show ring or someone's living room, there's a ghost of the Cordoba in there. Refined, redirected. Still dangerous enough to matter. Antonio Martinez's vision was a big game hunting dog with the willingness to engage something that could kill it, but wrapped in enough intelligence and handler loyalty to be actually useful in the field. The Cordoba gave him the courage. What it couldn't give him was everything else. What he produced by the 1940s was a dog that could hunt in a pack, something the Cordoba could never have done, hold large prey at bay without breaking, and come home at the end of the day and lie down next to the family. The aggression hadn't been removed. It had been given a direction it could actually work in. Antonio was killed by a poacher in 1956, but his brother Agustin continued the work, eventually getting the Dogo Argentino recognized by the Fédération Cynologique Internationale in 1973, the first and still the only Argentine breed to achieve that recognition. Today, the Dogo is a serious working dog and a family guardian. In the wrong hands or without proper socialization, it's still a serious animal. Nobody who knows the breed pretends otherwise. The power is real. The drive is real. That's the Cordoba in there. But the difference between the Cordoba and the Dogo is the difference between a weapon and a tool. One existed only to destroy. The other was built to protect. That's the legacy of a dog that couldn't survive itself. It became the foundation of one that could.